boy, I'm gonna hit y'all with some truth today. I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing with my life. So in the last year or so, since I've been delving into spirituality and manifestation, I'm hearing a lot of messages about pursuing your dreams. I absolutely believe in the power of manifestation, but the problem is, what if you have no idea what your dreams are? And I've most definitely had goals in my past, and I've envisioned them. I've done all of the kind of things that, you know, the preparations for making it happen. Like, for example, when I moved here to New York for the first time in 2011, I had actually visited here in 2008, and as soon as I stepped out of Penn Station, I looked up and I said, this is a place that I want to live someday. And I went back home after the visit, and it took me 3 years. It took me 3 years because I was only making, I think, $8.25, $8.35 an hour at that point. And so it took a lot of sacrifice, but that wasn't like a life goal, you know, that was just a next step goal. I think there's just so much emphasis on one career, or, you know, focusing on doing one thing, and it's honestly, it's kind of overwhelming. For starters, I feel like when I was in high school, there was absolutely no guidance. You know, there was a guidance counselor, there was somebody that you could go to if you had questions, but we're teenagers. Like, we, you know, unless you had parents or you were lucky enough to have someone that had already been to college or knew which questions to ask, but I didn't have any of that. My parents didn't go to college before I did. I was the first one in my family, and so when it came to picking a career, I had no idea. You know, my experience was so limited in just like 17, 18 years of existence, and there was no preparation for, like, what are these students good at? Like, let's take time to, you know, set aside for each individual and find out what their likes and their dislikes are, you know, find out what they're good at, find out what they're interested in, like, and let's, you know, point them in that direction. There was none of that, nothing. And then I started at my university, and I had applied for the film program because I was interested in movies, not because I was a movie nerd or I knew a lot about the history of film, but because I knew that there were particular movies that just really moved me, and there's like the story of them, you know, just kind of drew me in, and I was very intrigued by that. So but I didn't have any experience. I had done TV production when I was in high school, and I submitted some of my reel from the things that I did for that, but it wasn't cinematic, you know, and I got denied for the film program at my university, understandably so. But then I found myself lost again, and then I decided, okay, well, I really enjoyed TV production and it's close to film, so let's go for that. And about 3/4 of the way through the program, I started to realize that, because it was at a horrible time to choose that major and not be in a university or college that was designed specifically for that, or had a really good film or TV production program, because everybody was switching from analog to digital. I went to university between the years of 2002 and 2006, and unfortunately my university was still using analog. So by the time I graduated, pretty much by the time I got that piece of paper, that diploma, it was already obsolete because I didn't know how to work in the digital space. But then once again, lost. No guidance, no help. I had no idea what questions to ask. One of the most important things that I know now, that I realized that I was never ever taught, was to think critically, was to analyze things and to ask questions, and to, you know, I had no idea that I could challenge the professor. I always thought, like, you know, these are professors, these are, you know, they're held in like high esteem, and whatever they say must be truth. You know, whatever I read in these textbooks must be truth. Whatever I'm seeing on the news, on TV at night, must be truth. And that's such a lie. So I spent 2 years after that just working, just very lost, not sure what to do. So during those 2 years, I had made a list of things that I really enjoyed. And I thought, you know, I was a little bit older, I had experienced just a little bit more, still not a lot, still had basically lived in the same area my entire life. I made a list of the things that I really enjoyed, and photography was one of them, and travel, meeting new people, learning about new cultures, things like that were on the list. So I figured photography provide all of the rest of those things. So I went back for photography and still didn't know how to think critically. It wasn't until I was 27 years old and right after I had moved to New York that I really started to recognize the way the world really was and realize that I had been lied to my entire life about so many things. Just because the mainstream media says it doesn't mean it's true. Just because the professor says it doesn't mean it's true. Just because a professor wrote the goddamn book doesn't mean it's true. I'm now 35 years old. I've been out of university now for 13 years. I've been away from the photo program now for 9 years. I had all of my equipment stolen in 2012. My camera, my laptop, my external hard drive, my flip cam, and I purchased all of those things with student loans. And I haven't had a job since that has allowed me the financial ability to purchase new equipment. I have this vlogging camera. I do, you know, have a laptop, but I bought that on a credit card, going into more debt. I decided that the only way that I was going to be able to survive this life was to be able to travel. So I embarked on a 2.5-month journey in 2017 through Mexico, Belize, and Guatemala. I have since returned to Belize last year, and I was fortunate enough to meet the love of my life. I have passions, you know, I have things that I like to do, but I get bored so easily. I live in this, and I grew up in this age of instant gratification, in this age of like so many people having a certain level of ADD. And so where does that leave me? You know, what do I pursue? Like, where do I go from here? You know, I do have goals to be able to save money and get back to Belize and eventually move there. But I'm still, like, I'm in a lot of credit card debt, and I can hear the voices now saying, oh, well, you made that choice. You knew what you were getting into. You know, you applied for the credit card. You spent the money. And yes, you're absolutely right. I spent the money. But I also live in a society that doesn't deem it worthy to give us a living wage. So we're not able to pursue our dreams. Most of us that live in poverty, even those, I grew up middle class, but my parents aside, I live in poverty. So for most years, the highest I've ever made is $15,000 to $16,000. I can't live off that. I can't survive off that. I have 2 degrees and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to network. I have a lot of social anxiety, so speaking to people, like, I don't particularly have a problem with speaking to people. If I have something that I know I want to say and I know it's worthy of saying, I can absolutely approach somebody. But approaching somebody and just saying, hi, my name is blah, 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 and then having, you know, just not having something to say, or it's just a whole nother weight. I feel like there should be some type of list or something, you know, like, of course it's not going to be all inclusive of all of the professions that are around the world, but with the internet, like, I don't know, I feel like, why are we not preparing students better for when they, you know, first of all, 18 years old, 17, 18 years old is too damn young to be choosing what you want to do for the rest of your life. Shout out to those people, and I know some of them, I went to school with some of them, that knew exactly from the jump what they wanted to do, what profession they wanted to go into. Right after we graduated, they went to university for that. They've been working in that profession. I believe that most of them are happy with it, and I'll be honest, I'm envious of you. Like, that's effing dope, you know, that you didn't have to waste any time. You know, I'm 35 years old and I feel like I've wasted a shit ton of my life. I also feel like there's a ridiculous amount of pressure to pursue one career, and I think we live in a vastly different world than our parents and past generations have. So I think that kind of also needs to be eliminated. I mean, nobody even told me I had the option to like take a gap year and to travel, you know? Not that I would have been able to afford it, but shit, like it would have been nice to know that that was the fucking option. Does anybody else feel this way? Does anybody else just like have no idea what they want to do in life? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I also feel like I really value simplicity. Like if I have 3 choices, I can analyze those 3 choices and, you know, make one choice. But if I'm given a massive amount of choices, and not only am I given a massive amount of choices, but I also know that there's a like shit ton of choices over here that I know probably exist, but I don't know about. Like they say, you know, fight, flight, or freeze, and I freeze. I make 0 choices. Once it gets overwhelming and too complicated for me, I don't do anything. And the only choice I make is to make no choice at all. I think one of the things that's really starting to help me right now is this book right here by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way. A good friend of mine was doing this last year and I was kind of following along with her while she was doing it, and so she bought me one right before I went back to Belize last year, and it's a 12-week book, and there's a little segment that you read through, and at the end of the chapters there would be these tasks. And 2 of the most important things with the book is to do 3 morning pages of just freehand writing, whatever comes to your mind. It doesn't have to be coherent. It doesn't, you know, it just anything, just whatever comes to your mind. And then also the artist dates, which I've been bad about doing the artist dates. I think they're very important, and it's something that when I move forward with this, that I would like to make sure that I complete. One of the things, the major things that this book does is to unblock your creativity and figuring out why you haven't been pursuing that creative lifestyle. Everything has been pointing to fear. Fear of so many things. Fear of rejection, fear of being made fun of, fear of not being perfect, fear of just a plethora of things stemming from childhood. And childhood, early adulthood, I feel like my voice was really suppressed in a lot of ways. There was never a platform that I felt that I could speak. And so I lost that voice and I became very silent, became very reserved. And I think that can be a good thing in a way, because I think that observation and speaking less is important. But I also think that when we have something important to say and we have truth to speak, it needs to be said. And so, I don't know, I'm just getting on here and kind of like speaking to you guys and ranting because there's so much talk around pursuing your dreams and things that you need to do and steps that you can take to make those dreams come true. But I don't feel, and maybe it is, maybe I'm just not looking in the right spaces, but I feel like nobody or very few people are talking about what do you do when you don't know what your dreams are? What do you do when you don't know what you're hella passionate about, or you haven't found that one thing or those, you know, couple things that really ignite your soul and like light it on fire? I don't know where to start. I don't know. I just don't know where to go. And I'm just wondering if anybody else out there feels the same way. Like, I just hate for so many of us to be lost. And I know so many of us already feel lost in this society. In pursuing all of this, you know, in trying to figure out what it is that we want to do in life, it costs money, you know? Like, I knew there was something out there in the world, you know, for me, and there was, you know, my husband was out there. And if I would have stayed here, I would have never found him. I mean, we can argue that, you know, then it wasn't fate, you know, like your partner wasn't out there. If you know, if you didn't leave, then it wasn't meant to be. But yeah, like, but that's, you know, it's expensive. It's expensive to be poor. It sucks that I have to think about making a choice between paying a credit card debt or going to see my partner. Oh yeah, and I was just thinking, like, I'm 35, you know, it feels like it's too late. You know, some days I wake up and I'm like, I missed it, you know, I missed the opportunity, you know, but that's not true. There are plenty of success stories of people who didn't start their careers until their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond. So I need to focus on those, and I need to recognize that it's okay. Like, everything is happening the way it's supposed to be, even though it seems frustrating. And I want to have a goal, you know, many goals. And I've kind of made a list of things that I think I would want to do, but I'm just not really sure. I think I'm just going to start experimenting, you know. Like I spoke about previously, I have such trouble making decisions, very indecisive, and so I need to start making some decisions and experimenting and doing things that I'm afraid of, doing things that terrify me, because that's the only way that I'm going to get to the next level. And I do not want to be on my deathbed and thinking about all of the things that I could have done, or the things that I wished I would have done when I had the opportunity. And so right now, creator's spare life, I have the opportunity. And they say to be the person that you needed when you were younger. And so I think that's one of my major goals, is to make sure that these youth that are coming up now have every opportunity available to them to find out what they're interested in and to cultivate that. And even if it's not ultimately what they want to do for the rest of their life, I want them to have the opportunities that I didn't have. Comment below if you guys feel the same way that I do, if you feel lost, if you feel like you weren't guided properly, that you wish you would have had a different experience. Let's have a conversation, and let's start talking about what it feels like to not know what your dreams are, to not know what you want to pursue in life. All right, until next time, I leave you with revolutionary love.